Well, it looks like it's 6:30 according to the clock on the wall. Go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask for the roll to be called, please.
Schrader? Shore? Weibel? Bergson? Harper? Petrie?
Present.
And Esri.
Here, and I will just make note that Stan Harper and John Schrader both sent me a text, and I just sent them a quick note back acknowledging their text that they won't be here tonight. Move on then to approval of agenda and addenda. Moved by Mr. Weibel, seconded by Mr. Shore. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes. Thank you. Move on then. Hello, Astrid. Move on then to approval of minutes. ELEC committee meeting, November 5th, 2015. Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? And seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes. Thank you. We'll move on then to, I guess we'll go ahead and have you speak now. Move on then to public participation. I don't know which one of you wants to go first. We'll have Mr. Dominic Durbin then speak. And it just asks that you please sit at the chair and the closest to you button on the microphone. The red light should come on. There, hold it.
Hold? Okay.
Well, you don't have to hold it. It should stay on now. You're good to go.
Got it. All right. I'm Dominic Durbin, Durbin Geothermal, current president of the Geothermal Alliance of Illinois, and I'm also chairman of the Closed Loop Well Advisory Board to the Illinois Department of Public Health. You guys have on your agenda, and it's been a topic for many counties in the last, well, since December last year when legislation was passed requiring certification and registration for contractors installing ground source geothermal systems. To boil it down into the simplest terms, we're a between 4 and 5 year process getting to where we were last year, passing legislation requiring some form of license. Although it didn't become a license, it was a certification and a registration on the state basis to install ground source geothermal systems. There's obvious concerns penetrating groundwater, that there could be contamination, pollution, those type of things. There are also market concerns for poor workmanship, leading to unhappy customers, leading to decreased sales and installations. So several years in the making, industry and regulators got together, and 4 years in the making, we came up with a state code. What we did not know, because very few of us were higher than the county level in government through that process, what we did not know is how the state of Illinois works to break down county powers and state powers. We thought we came up with a system that said, okay, $100 permit fee, everybody that puts these things in has to have a certification, and they have to be registered by the state. So now we're going to know as a state who's putting in what systems where, and we'll know what those systems are comprised of. And that was the goal. From that point, it became, okay, we have to inspect it, we have to check it, we have to see it, we have to track it. A lot of different things came into play. We thought we had a fairly simple mechanism for all that, but it's came more complicated, and with that has came more questions. And so what's happening now is on a county-by-county basis, they're starting back at the same point that we started on the state level 4 or 5 years ago to develop a workable code set of rules. And you guys is pretty close to the state's code, nothing real extreme. $150 inspection fee that's pretty high for a 10-15 minute inspection. Pretty low if you're going to have an inspector stay out for a commercial job and watch every hole for a week. drastic miscommunications, but we're seeing counties do both things, 5 minutes and stay all day with the crew. It's drastic in between. And then the other topic is the antifreeze solutions that go into these loop fields. Methanol and food-grade propylene glycol are the two most common and pretty much the only two used in the state of Illinois. The difference between the two, methanol is very flammable, propylene glycol is very expensive. Propylene glycol is very safe, methanol very cheap. Both are not something that you would put in a glass and drink. Food grade or not, you're not going to put it in a glass and drink it. Both have been deemed acceptable by ASHRAE, by the International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, and by the National Groundwater Association because of the concentrations that they're used in, their ability to break down, their flash points when they're mixed in the right environment and at the concentrations that they'll be used in. So environmentally, they're safe. What if there is a leak? A typical antifreeze solution in a loop field is going to be somewhere around 20% of the solution. So if you've got a homeowner's house system holds 100 gallons, which would probably be a pretty good sized trophy house, but a 100-gallon system, they'll have 20% methanol solution in it or 20% glycol solution in it. So 20 gallons of that, of which, like in the methanol, what's actually toxic is 2% of that. So 2% of 20% of 100 gallons. Not much different than the aftermath of an average frat party as far as alcohol going on the ground. It's pretty much right there. Chances of a leak. If our jobs are done properly, an average system is tested at least 3 times, at more than 4 to 5 times its operating rate before it's ever commissioned and given to an owner. When a drill crew drills, they'll put pipe in the ground, they'll test the pipe, they'll grout the pipe, they'll test the pipe to make sure that nothing was hurt during the grouting process. Next process, they dig all the pipe up, they connect it together, they put it into the building. They'll test all of that manifolding and all those underground connections before they put it in the building. If you guys didn't know, geothermal systems are a high-density polyethylene pipe, so it's a heat fusion pipe. It's basically plastic welded, sticks together. The reason for that, it has one expansion and contraction rate. The reason pipes leak underground is they leak underground at joints. Why do they leak at joints? The joints are made of 2 different materials that expand and contract at 2 different rates. So they eventually break apart. Geothermal system, one material all the way through, identical expansion and contraction rate. So you've got something that's a 100-year pipe. It's been tested 2 to 3 times, been installed in a system, and is commissioned and given over to there. So the fear factor, so to say, of there's flammable alcohol in the system is no, it's not there. By the time it's in the system, it's at 20% concentrations. So that's pretty much everything I know about a geothermal system and regulations in as quick as what I can tell you. But on behalf of industry, the Geothermal Alliance of Illinois, and someone who's working tirelessly at the state level to figure out how to make a $100 fee profitable for county health departments, I would beg and plead and ask that you would recommend adapting the state's code as it is written, or as close to as it is written as possible. If any of you guys have a geothermal question, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Otherwise, I definitely thank you for listening.
Thank you. If we have any questions, if you stick around, we'll do that during the actual
I sure could.
part of the meeting. We're discussing that topic. So
I sure
thanks.
could.
Then I guess Mr. Hoover, Lon Hoover, would you care to speak?
Okay, that better? Yeah, that isn't nearly all he knows about the geothermal systems. I sat with him the first 2 years of the advisory committee to the Illinois Department of Public Health as chair of that committee for those very formative years. And I'm glad to see that they've elected him chair of the continuing committee for that purpose. I'm a civil engineer. I'm licensed in Illinois and Wisconsin. I started in the geothermal industry 36 years ago. Most people don't realize the industry is that old, but that's those systems that we put in that long ago are still up and running. And my last 10 years, 15 years of being in this industry have been devoted to designing. So geothermal systems that I've designed for schools and hospitals, warehouses, mostly banks, and very few homes, because homeowner doesn't want to pay an engineer to design a dumb thing. But there are homes that have come to me, and they've been, well, the one in south side of Chicago was a little over budget at $12.5 million. So they took out the geothermal system to try to trim costs. But they came back to me about 6 months later and said, no, we got to have that. So it still went in. Right along the lake shore, south side of Chicago. It was their summer home. I came here with Dom to support his view on your legislation and to offer my service to you. Should you need some advice and answer some questions on the run, I'm here. I've retired from active engineering in the last year, but I'm still interested in the industry, and I'd welcome your query. So give me a call. You've got my business card, and I'll be available to you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other public, we will close that part of the meeting and move on to communications. Are there any from the members of the committee? Seeing none of those, we'll then move on to part 7, information only, and we have A, update regarding RPC assistance to Wilbur Heights. Susan.
Okay, this work item is a two-part item to gauge a level of support from Wilbur Heights property owners to participate in a special assessment process and to hold a public meeting and provide information to property owners in Wilbur Heights about the special assessment process and about any options that may exist if they are interested in annexation to the city of Champaign. So a two-part process, and essentially we're working now on the neighborhood survey to see if residents and property owners are interested in paying a special assessment fee over a period of up to 10 years with a range of possible fees, $5 to $20 per month, just to get a handle on some feedback from these property owners and residents. The survey is a one-page survey, and it's being finalized now. And essentially also preparing for a public meeting with residents who are interested in meeting to answer any general questions they may have about the process of special assessments and to provide an estimates or comparisons of what a scenario might be if they would annex into the city of Champaign, if that is even an option for them, what their property tax rates might be like, or what their commitment to a special assessment fee might be over a period of a certain amount of years. So just to answer general questions about that whole process and provide information to them via perhaps a newsletter along with the survey, and then to meet afterwards at a public meeting within a 2-week period. Essentially, these things will occur. So the project timeline calls for surveys to be distributed, public meeting to be advertised and held, all within a 2-week period. And as you know, we are in the month of December, which is not the most ideal month to do these kinds of things toward the holidays. So at the very latest, with possible decision to avoid holiday distraction, we would plan to have sufficient feedback and complete this task by mid-January. We want to be poised and able to initiate a CDAP grant process if we have the right kind of feedback. So the timeline is limited at this point. Any questions?
Okay, any questions? Ms. Petrie?
Susan, when you have the survey in a final form, would you just as a courtesy email it as an attachment to us so we can see what you're
Certainly.
going to be asking? And what are your expectations if the citizens indicate an interest that they might benefit from turning in a CDAC application?
Well, we're not asking them about the application for grant funding, just about their willingness to participate in the special assessment process. Because that involves a commitment and additional money on their part. So it's good to have some idea of their interest before launching into the whole process of special assessment and grants.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Patsy.
Just a follow-up, who are the representatives in Wilbur Heights that you're able to work with? Are they structurally organized now, or what's the situation?
I'm not aware that they are organized. I will seek a public meeting venue at the fire department building, and I'm not aware that there is any organized kind of group of residents out there. There's 60 households, 20 businesses, so.
And any other questions? Not seeing any. We will then move on to the next item, B, an update regarding the county burn ordinance. I believe Susan is handling that as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I'd like to introduce Kate,
Oh.
Kathleen Oldry, RPC planner, who is also working on the burn ordinance project. Kate, this is the ELUC, and county administrator and assistant. So we're both working on this. And tonight we're going to provide you a brief overview of where we are in this process. We're starting to get interest from our fire chiefs and others. So essentially, as you know, this project was to consider development of a burn ordinance for the county to provide some teeth for any entity that would seek to enforce a ban on landscape waste burning. And so that's what it is, and we realize our limited resources and staffing resources of fire departments to do this kind of thing throughout the county. So based on the types of complaints received, our initial focus will be on landscape waste burn prevention. And Kate, you're going to talk more about what we're proposing.
Yes, the approach that we're currently examining and that we have been examining is identifying an area within a 1,000-foot buffer around the Champaign-Urbana corporate limits, and including the same area around Mahomet and Rantoul, depending on their interest, and applying the terms of that adjacent municipality's existing landscape waste burn ordinance to that area. There does not seem to be interest in a landscape waste burning ordinance within that area outside of Savoy at this time, but we've been gauging their interest as well.
So as I mentioned, we have had some meetings with fire chiefs of City of Urbana, City of Champaign. We're about to meet with Corn Belt Fire Prevention Fire District Chief, and we're going to meet with Rantoul as well. And essentially, we've been invited to present this topic to the Fire Chiefs Association monthly meeting that occurs in January. Our timeline has shifted to have a final product for your consideration at the February ELUC meeting. We want to encourage this interest and input that we are receiving, largely of support from the fire chiefs that we've discussed this with so far. We're in the process of collecting intergovernmental agreements that exist between the U of I and cities of Urbana and Champaign, for example, and making contact with homeowners association homeowners associations, HOAs, that exist in some of those subdivisions that intersect the 1,000-foot area of restriction that we're looking at around the perimeter of the two larger cities. So, for example, if there's a subdivision and the 1,000-foot line intersects that subdivision, we would contact with the HOA president and find out if that group would like to involve the whole entire subdivision and not just have a line through one half can burn, one half cannot burn kind of thing. So to make it more logical and comprehensive within that subdivision. So as I mentioned, we should be back before you with a final draft to propose to you, hopefully in February.
Questions, comments? Ms. Petrie?
I have two questions and one request. First question, can you better explain the choice of 1,000 feet as compared to 1,500 or 1,200?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was very over enthusiastic thinking of half mile and mile. So we've whittled this back to 1,000 feet just based on reality of limited resources of fire protection districts and fire departments to respond and enforce an ordinance. Most of the complaints that are meaningful with regard to landscape waste burning occur right outside or right adjacent to the densely populated areas. So that's why that focus.
Okay, and then in your conversations with the various fire chiefs that you have met with, what are their pros and cons to this proposal?
Well, we were delighted that the reaction of support from the fire chiefs was received, that we did receive. Their general policy seems to be anything that would prevent burning is welcome. So they're sort of anti-burn in their approach to this, and they are supportive of it.
Okay.
The
sorry.
fire chiefs of City of Urbana indicated, as well as the City of Champaign, that fire protection districts located just outside the city limits would be the entity to enforce the ordinance, because that's what each of these districts is set up to do. And so there was no interest in, for example, the City of Urbana Fire Department responding in an area outside of their corporate limits.
And my request, first, thank you for the work that's progressed so far. And my request is if you could share a brief summary of that by email to the various folks who have contacted me, and then I've sent it on to you and to John, just so that they know the work that's being done and sort of the timeline you have in mind.
I do expect some of those people to attend in February to this ELUC meeting to express their support.
Good.
They've been in contact.
Good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments on that topic? And seeing none, thank you, Susan. Kate? We will move on then to line 8, items to be approved by ELUC. One-day recreation and entertainment license, Matt Slade, 1306 East Kerr Avenue, Urbana, for a lawnmower derby at the Champaign County Fair Association Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, Illinois, December 6th, 2015. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Questions on this? Comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, that passes. Move on then to B, and unless there's objection, I would accept an omnibus motion for the annual renewal of recreation and entertainment licenses for the following 4 entities. The first one, Lake of the Woods Bar and Liquors, 204 South Prairie View Road, Mahomet, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. Second, Tin Cup RV Park, Incorporated, 1715 East Tin Cup Road, Mahomet, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. Third would be Gordyville LLC, 2205 County Road 3000 North, Gifford, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. And the fourth, Curtis Orchard, 3902 South Duncan Road, Champaign, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. Moved by Ms. Berkson, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Questions, comments on these? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that passes. Thank you. Move on then to C, annual renewal of hotel motel license for the Harem Incorporated, DBA Motel 6, 1906 North Cunningham Avenue, Urbana, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016. Moved by Ms. Berkson, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Questions, comments on this? Imagine not. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you. That passes. Yeah. Just would imagine not, seeing as how it's been out there for so long. Okay, we will move then to D, recommendation to limit type of coolant used in closed loop system wells. Mr. Weibel.
I will be abstaining from this discussion as I'm a member of the Groundwater Advisory Council for the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Abstention noted. Thanks, Mr. Weibel. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, so this essentially is a recommendation for ELUC to consider providing to the County Board of Health, who would make any kind of amendment proposal to the county health ordinance in this regard. So essentially, since our last proposal before ELUC for recommendation, I have had many, many conversations, first with Macon County again, with their environmental health director, to learn more about why they were one of the first counties to consider adjusting this rule and what they based that decision on. And it turns out it wasn't on scientific studies or any kind of evidence like that. It was mostly a reactionary kind of response to a flawed inspection system that had happened in their county. And so yeah, and so that was interesting. That was interesting to hear the rest of the story. And then I've had several conversations with IDPH, Illinois Department of Public Health, private water and closed loop well program manager David Johnson. And he now has reinitiated the review process to move forward an amendment, which is a 6-month kind of timeline that he gauges, an amendment to the Administrative Code of Illinois that would essentially, if you look on page 3 of the memo, have the exact same kind of language to allow for the same recommendation here that has been adjusted for your review and consideration to forward to our county Board of Health for their consideration. So it is a more broad allowance to allow for water, a mixture of water and methanol, or ethanol, or propylene glycol, and with an incentive for use of food-grade propylene glycol. Essentially, this just eliminates ethylene glycol, which Mr. Johnson assured me is never going to likely ever be added as part of the rules to be allowable again. So this still is not scientific evidence for this. There have been some studies which I shared with you in this memorandum, and the need for more research has been indicated as being a good thing. So we'll see if that is able to happen. But for now, I had a final conversation recently with our Department of our County Health, Board of Health Department, our inspectors, and their preference would be to be consistent with the state proposal as to allow for more broad use of these other heat exchange fluids, including ethanol and methanol, as a mixture of 20 to 30% with water. So they want to allow for these choices to exist, and they acknowledge the incentive of using food-grade propylene glycol as a good thing. They don't want to be overly restrictive is the bottom line, and they want to encourage use of geothermal wells and not unnecessarily restrict contractors at this time. So I'll stop talking about things now and see if you have any questions, but essentially the recommendation has been adjusted to be more broad, consistent with the expected state amendment to the rules.
Questions? Ms. Petrie?
I understand the argument to parallel the state rules. However, I don't have a sense of the argument as to why that is necessary to go along on that pathway. So could you elucidate some of what you've learned in your conversations?
Sure. Well, I did look for scientific evidence of the potentially harmful impacts of a leak in a closed-loop system well of ethanol or methanol mixed with water. And those studies are lacking. The preliminary kind of studies that have occurred indicate pretty low levels of concern. So that's pretty general, I realize. There is a need for more study specific to this topic.
Any other questions, comments? So with this recommendation, Susan, looking for us to approve this, to put it in front of the County Board of Health?
Right, it would be a motion to forward this to the County Board of Health for their review, your recommendation, if it is.
Is there such a motion? Anyone want to care to make one? Ms. Bergson, you move to present this as to the County Board of Health as it's given to us. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Shore. Discussion on the motion. And if not, all in favor, or I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. 3-1, what it sounded like to me with such a small number, so that passed. We will then move on. Thank you. To slide item 9, items to be recommended to the county board. We have A, case 815-AM-15, recommendation to approve a zoning map amendment to change the zoning district designation from the B2 Neighborhood Business Zoning District to the B4 General Business Zoning District for petitioners Jody Wesley and Dustin Heiser, DBA Prairie View 1 LLC, on a 2.16 acre tract in the northwest quarter of Section 13, Township 20 North, Range 7 East in Mahomet Township, and commonly known as 201 North Prairie View Road, Mahomet. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Shore, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Questions, comments on this? Mr. Weibel.
John, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like this is right in the middle of a commercial district or at the edge of it, so this change will be not significant as far as what people use this property for or what the neighbors think it's going to be used for.
Not significant, except that it makes it the same as the rest of the commercial zoning B4, so it opens up a lot more possibilities for this property. We're told that they intend to do self-storage, but if you compare the uses, the number of uses under the current zoning versus all of those that could happen under B4 in a location with good highway access, already served by water and sewer, I mean, it seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes unanimously. Move on then to B, case 817-AM-15. Amend the zoning map to change the zoning district designation from the R4 Multiple Family Residence District to the AG2 Agriculture Zoning District in order to operate a special use permit authorized in related zoning case 808-S-15 for the ongoing use of an existing barn as a rentable venue for entertainment and recreation for petitioner Loretta Dessen, DBA Farm Lake Incorporated, on a 10-acre tract in the west half of the northeast quarter of Section 4, Township 19, North Range 8 East in Urbana Township, and commonly known as Farm Lake, with an address of 2502 North Cunningham Avenue, Urbana. Is there moved by Mr. Weibel, seconded by Ms. Berkson? Questions on this? Any comments? Mr. Weibel?
John, is this sort of a catch-up case? I mean, that's something that maybe we should have done a long time ago, but didn't happen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually something that happened a long time ago that probably shouldn't have happened, and now it's going to revert back to Ag 2 like it was originally, and the business will be finally in conformance.
Okay. All right. So everybody will be happy.
We think everybody will be happy, and more importantly, the landowner now has some good guidelines in regards to noise, which
Okay.
they've never really had, but they will have now.
All right.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And that passes unanimously. Then move on to the addendum that's at our desk. We have C, the CDAP loan request for Rantoul Hospitality LLC, and we have some information.
Yes, I included that memo. It's been a while since we've had a CDAP loan for consideration, a good candidate, so I'll give you a brief background on that program. That's one of our 3 revolving loan programs. We used to have 4 at the Regional Planning Commission. Currently, we have 3. Each of our programs are intended to fill a gap for businesses, startups, and expansions, and additional projects as well. The CDAP program is for projects that are inside Champaign County but outside of Champaign-Urbana city limits. So it kind of decreases our applicant availability pool out there to not as many projects. There's also a job creation aspect that we need to fulfill with that program. And we originally started that program in the 1980s with grant money that the federal government gave to the state to give to communities to start these revolving loan funds. So we haven't gotten any new money for that program since the 80s. We just keep revolving it, relending it to business projects, and as they pay it back, we lend it back out for qualified applicants. It's been a challenge in the economy in recent years to find good candidates, so we were actually pleased to see this applicant as an option for this program. It's Rantoul Hospitality LLC, and it's the group that plans to construct a Holiday Inn Express there along 57 in Rantoul near the Walmart. The project is $8.4 million, and they plan to complete it by next September. There's 2 primary members of the LLC. Both have extensive experience in the hospitality industry, and they both have really strong net worth personally. This project would get a majority of its financing through Morton Community Bank, and then they also wanted to use local resources as well. The Village of Rantoul has committed TIF reimbursement of costs and tax increments as the project progresses and builds value in the future on the property. Rantoul also plans to provide a revolving loan as well. So our proposal is for CDAP to possibly use $400,000 for a loan. We've run the cash flow for the business and especially the personal financials as well. And there's adequate cash flow to pay debt service. We used the most conservative numbers we could just in case, just to be on the safe side. There's also the additional cash from the Village of Rantoul, as I mentioned previously. So we would be considering having a second lien position on the business assets, having a third mortgage on the property itself, and taking personal guarantees of the majority owners of the company. We would also get a guarantee from the company itself. And they do plan to hire 40 employees, so that would be an asset to the community. And then we've listed the rate and terms there that we've proposed. So that's a basic overview. If you have questions or more information needed.
Mr. Weibel.
I'd like to move that we approve this CDAP loan of $400,000 to Rantoul Hospitality LLC.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Shore. Mr. Weibel.
Kathy, can you tell me about what other motels are in the area or were in the area or that may be not operating or not operating?
Yes, well, in Rantoul, they have, I believe, 3 other hotels. One's a Super 8, and that's the highest range of services available for hotel-wise. There's 2 other hotels. I do have that in here. They're not nationally, or they're not national brands that I know of. I believe they're some sort of local ownership.
I guess, is the Super 8 on the same road?
Not on the same road. It's still on the main drag there when you come off the interstate.
The
on
main
57.
east-west drag?
Yes, yeah.
Now, isn't there an old motel there on that?
There's also an older one. I could find the name. I've got it in my file.
It looked like it
It's
might
not-
have been, actually, might have been a Holiday Inn at one time, maybe.
Could be, yeah.
But is that closed?
I believe it's still operational,
I mean,
and I don't know financially
okay.
how well they're doing.
Okay,
It's
I'm-
not as new or as many amenities as just a normal hotel would have.
I suspect they haven't had a new hotel in 20 years.
Yes, yeah, it's been a long
Okay.
time. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Petrie.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Are there any regulations or parameters in this type of loan program to check out if they actually do hire 40 people?
Yes.
And that 40 people are still employed 12 months later?
So this program requires that we check for the first 2 years of the business's
Okay.
operations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? And if not, all in favor of approving the $400,000 loan, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Then move on to line 10, monthly reports. We have the October 2015 in front of us, reports. Questions for John? Comments? Seeing none, we will place those, accept those and place those on file. Other business? I have nothing. I don't know. Chair's report, other than as an ELEC committee, of course, we're coming into the holidays, so wish everyone the best there for upcoming travels and safe travels and everything, and family get-togethers. Move on then to designation of items to be placed on consent agenda. It looks to me like we have, under 9, we have A, B, and C. All 3 of those passed unanimously and are set for adjournment. If someone moved by Ms. Petrie, seconded by Ms. Berkson, we're adjourned. Thank you.